Hello friends, now we are going to study second part of the essay of friendship. It is not to be forgotten what Comenius observed of his master, Duke Charles the Hardy, namely that he would communicate his secrets with none, and least of all those secrets which troubled him most. Whereupon he goeth and said that towards his later time that closeness did impair, and a little perish his understanding. Surely Comenius might have made the same judgment also, if it had pleased him of his second master, Louis XI, where closeness was indeed his tormentor. The parable of Pythagoras is dark, but true, corne edito, eat not the heart. Certainly, if a man would give it a hard praise, those that were friends to open themselves unto the cannibals of their own hearts. But one thing is most admirable, wherewith I will conclude this first fruit of friendship, which is that this communicating of a man's self to his friend works to contrary effect, for it redoubleth joys and cutteth griefs in half. For there is no man that imparts his joy to his friend, but he joyeth the more, and no man had impart his griefs to his friend, but he grieves less, so that it is true of operation upon a man's mind. Of like virtue, as the alchemists used to attribute to the stone of man's body, that it worketh all contrary effects, but still to the good and benefit of nature. But yet without praying in aid of alchemist, there is a manifest image of this in the ordinary course of nature. For bodies union strength and cherisheth any natural action, and know the other side weaketh and dulleth any violent impression, and even so it is of minds. In this paragraph, Bacon discusses about two masters of Comenius. First one, Duke Charles the Hardy. He intimate less with anyone, and that troubled him the most. Second one, Louis VII, whose closeness made a conflict of suffering. Pythagoras, corne edito, eat not heart, the person who is not open to anyone, merely eating his own heart. This is the phrase is taken from Pythagoras. When a person share his problems with his friends, he redouble the joy and cut the grief which related to the alchemist attribute their stone for man's body. That philosopher tone convert any metals into gold. By sharing, cherishes the action and weakens the violence. The second fruit of friendship is healthful and sovereign for the understanding, as for the first is for actions. For friendship maketh indeed a fair day in the affections from the storms and tempest, but it maketh daylight in the understanding out of darkness and the confusions of thoughts. Neither is this to be understood only of faithful counsel which a man receiveth from his friend. But before you come to that, certain it is that whosoever hath his mind fraught with many thoughts, his wits and understanding do clarify and break up in the communicating and discoursing with another. He tosses his thoughts more easily, he marshalleth them more orderly, he seeth how they look when they are turned into words. Finally, he waxeth wiser than himself, and that more by an hour's discourse than by a day's meditation. It is well said by Themistocles to the king of Persia. The speech was like cloth of arras opened and put abroad, whereby the imagery doth appear in figure. Whereas in thoughts they lie, but as in packs. Neither is this second fruit of friendship in opening the understanding restrained only to such friends as are able to give a man counsel, they indeed are best. But even without that, a man learneth to himself and bringeth his own thought to light, and watteth his wits against a stone, which itself cuts not. In a word, man were better relate himself to a statue or a picture than to offer his thoughts to pass in smoother. The second fruit of friendship is understanding, whereas the first one is affection. It converts a day fair from storms and a tempest, and it lights from darkness. In order to get this, the opposite person must be wise, which makes his friend more better than before. He waxeth wiser than himself. Themistocles, a king of Persia's court, that speech was like cloth of Ares, open and put abroad, whereby the imagery doth appear in figure, which means a man has to be open in conversation. It's not only understanding lies in the second fruit of friendship, but the other person has the ability to counsel. Those who want to manage himself compared with the stone, and a stone cannot cut the stone itself, and compared with the statues and the pictures. Add now to make this second fruit of friendship complete that other point which lieth more open and falleth with a vulgar observation, which is faithful counsel from a friend. Heraclitus saith well in one of his Agemos, dry light is ever the best, and certain it is that the light that a man receiveth by counsel from another is drier and purer than that which cometh from his own understanding and judgment, which is ever infused and drenched in his affection and custom. So as there is as much difference between the counsel that a friend giveth and that a man giveth himself as there is between the counsel of a friend and of a flatterer. For there is no such flatterer as is a man's self, and there is no such remedy against flattery of a man's self as the liberty of a friend. Counsel is of two sorts, the one concerning manners, the other concerning business. For the first, the best preservative to keep the mind is health, is the faithful admonition of a friend. The calling of a man's self to a strict account is a medicine, sometimes too piercing and corrosive. Reading good books of a morality is a little flat-ended. Observing our faults in others is sometimes improper for our case. The best recept, best, I say, to work and best to take, is the admonition of a friend. It is a strange thing to behold what gross errors and extreme absurdities many, especially of the greatest sort, do commit, for want of a friend to tell them of them, to the great damage both of their fame and fortune. For as St. James saith, for they are as man that look sometimes into a glass and presently forget their own shape and favour. As for business, a man may think, if he will that two eyes see no more than one, or that a gamester seeth always more than a looker on, or that a man in anger is as wise as he that hath said over the 24 letters, or that a musket may be shot off as well upon the arms as upon a rest, and such other fond and a high imagination to think himself all in all. But when all is done, the help of good counsel is that which setteth business straight. And if any man thinks that he will take counsel, but it shall be by pieces, asking counsel in one business of one man, and there is another business of another man, it is well, that is to say, better perhaps than if he ask none at all. But he runneth two dangers. One, that he shall not be faithfully counselled, for it is a rare thing, except it to be from a perfect and entire friend, to have counsel given, but such as shall be bowed and crooked to some ends with he hath that given it. The order that he shall have counsel given, hurtful and unsafe, though with good meaning, and mixed partly to mischief and partly to remedy, even as if you would call a physician thought good for the cure of the disease you complain of, but is unacquainted with your body, and therefore may put you in a way of a present cure, but overthrow your health in some other kind, and so cure the disease and kill the patient. But a friend that is wholly acquainted with a man's estate will beware, by furthering any present business, how he dasheth upon other inconvenience, and therefore rest not upon scattered counsel, they will rather distract and mislead than settle and direct. Bacon describes second fruit of friendship even more deeper. A friend should have vulgar observation and to be straight in pointing his mistakes. Heraclitus is a philosopher, and in his utterance, dry light is ever the best. The counsel of a friend which brings light to the life must be dry and clean, which differentiate from a friend from a flatterer. Bacon says flattering is nothing but his own suggestion, and a liberty friends flattering comes under two ways. Concerning manner and concerning business. Taking medicine is not good, reading book is flawed, observing our fault in others is improper. Admitting to a friend is a good remedy, but the friend should be loyal unless it is a damage for both the fame and the fortune. St. James quoted, sometimes into a glass and presently forget their own shape and favor. Which means whoever is looking inside themselves, they forget their own shape and favor. Second one, it helps to straight the business. If you are discussing with another businessman, that must be worsen. That will bring more dangers. First one, he may be bowed or crooked somewhere, and his suggestion may be hurtful and unsafe. It is like a doctor treating a disease that must not end up in wrong way, which mislead or distract you. After this, two noble fruits of friendship, peace in the affection and support of the judgment, follow the last fruit, which is like a pomegranate full of many kernels. I mean, aid and bearing a part in all actions and occasion. Here, the best way to represent to life manifold use of friendship is to cast and to see how many things there are which a man cannot do himself. Then it will appear that it was sparing speech of the ancient to say that a friend is another himself, for that a friend is far more than himself. Men have their time and die many times in desire of something, which they principally take to heart, the bestowing of a child, the finishing of a work, or the like. If a man hath a true friend, he may rest almost secure that the care of those things will continue after him, so that a man hath as it were two lives in his desire. A man hath a body, and that body is confined to a place, but where friendship is, all office of life, or as it were granted to him under his deputy. For he may exercise them by his friend. How many things are there which a man cannot, with any face for comeliness, say or do himself? A man can scare allege his own merits with modesty, much less extol them. A man cannot sometime brook to supplicate or beg, and a number of the like. But all these things are grateful in a friend's mouth, which are blushing in man's own. So again, a man's persons hath made proper relation which he cannot put off. A man cannot speak to his son but as a father, to his wife but as a husband, to his enemy but upon terms, whereas a friend may speak as the case requires, and not as it sorteth with the person. But to enumerate these things were endless. I have given the rule where a man cannot fitly play his own part. If he hath not a friend, he may quit the stage. Last fruit of friendship is a pomegranate, which is fruitful. That a friend is another self, for that a friend is far more than himself. If a man have true friend, he has two lives, even after he dies out of emotional outbreak, the other one can handle it. First one, a man cannot speak to his son except as a father. A man cannot speak to his wife except as a husband. A man cannot speak to his enemy of different tongue. But interaction with a friend is endless. Bacon ends this essay by saying that he has set upon some rules. If you cannot fit into it, or if you don't have any other friend, he may quit the stage, which means it is unnecessary for him to follow these rules. Thank you, friends. So far we have seen of friendship. Next we will be seeing of love.